All right, folks, we are back, episode number 2, and this is a huge episode. This is so big, and we're so excited to bring this to you. So this episode is all about releasing the weight of weight loss. So here we go. So Andrea and I wanted to kind of go through, to start off, what the weight is. What is the weight of weight loss? Because there's so much to unpack here. And as we were going through this episode, we were like, every single thing we're going to talk about is literally probably going to be another episode in and of itself. But I think they need the foundation here needs to just be laid down. So the first one out of the gate is quick fix diets.
Oh, yes.
Quick fix diets. It's the quick fix diet cycle, right? You're on, you're off, you're on, you're off, you're on, you're off. It's exhausting. It is exhausting. And it's completely causing what we're dealing with at such a big level across this entire industry.
And I actually think, Matt, this has been going on since we were kids.
Absolutely.
I think our we probably grew up watching our moms go through this. This is not new.
No.
At all.
No. And yet it's absolutely not new. And it's become kind of part of the fabric of society. It's like, are you dieting? Are you not dieting? Right?
Are you on the program?
Yeah. Are you on the program? Exactly. Right. And we'll get into that.
I know.
The second one, I think, and you and I have been in the gym space and the fitness space for a very long time, is insane exercise, like just completely going absolutely nuts. I mean, there's actually an exercise program called Insanity,
Right.
Which I thought was a very interesting name, like from a branding standpoint, to name that, but it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, but the sexy of it, right?
Absolutely.
The marketing.
Exactly. The third one is, and we're kind of going through all the physical ones right now, the pills, the shakes, the supplements, and seeing them as, this is going to be the thing that makes it work. This is going to be the magic bullet. This is going to be the thing, right? I'm going to do this shake thing, or I'm going to do this, pill thing, or whatever it is. And this is going to solve it once and for all.
Right.
Right.
If only there was a magic pill.
We are here to tell you, folks, there is no magic pill. Right. And
right.
Then, I know for me, I've been doing research and learning about this for the past 20 years. And it's interesting to watch the different themes and the different things that the experts have dug into over the past 20 years and how it's evolved. And I feel like sometimes the fighting between the experts creates this cognitive dissonance that you're like, well, one person said this is good and one person said this is bad, right? You should eat eggs. You shouldn't eat eggs. They're bad, right? And then you get into this, I don't know what to do. So you eat whatever you're used to, right? You go back to the old way. And so I think if we all started to band together a little bit more and started to give the basics, which we're going to do today, it would make it a lot less confusing.
Right.
People are confused.
Right. And when they're confused, there's zero action.
Paralysis by analysis.
That's right? It right there.
Absolutely.
Yes. And then there's the whole fear thing. Mm-hmm. Right. There's so much.
Multiple levels of fear, right?
Right. I mean, what is it going to take to get there? What do I have to give up? What if I fail? What if I don't know if I want to change, my behavior patterns? What will the people around me, closest to me, think about this? If they're not on board, I'll never make it. So you have this whole narrative already that's railing against you.
Yeah. Anybody out there hear some of those stories in your head, right?
funny how I could just banter those off because I've never experienced any of those.
No, of course not. Right?
No. We've all been there.
Yeah, I'd say one of the probably the number one mind block that a lot of the clients that I work with is the all or nothing mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If I don't do this perfect, if it's not exactly how it's supposed to be done, then don't do it at all.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times you get you out of that way that your saboteurs and your judge in your head get you to do that, then you actually just get nothing.
Right.
Right.
You're stuck. There you are.
And that really, all of these things have a massive impact on our self-esteem. The self-esteem is a massive piece of this, right? So many people are walking around feeling like they're not good enough because of the size or shape of their body,
mm-hmm.
when that's completely untrue. And we will get into that when we start talking about how we're going to release this weight.
Right.
And how many people feel like they need to give up social engagements to lose weight? Show of hands.
Right. Or I'll start after
mm-hmm.
that party, that wedding, because it's all or nothing.
It begins on Monday. It begins on Monday.
Right.
And feeling like you need to do it by yourself. You got to solo mission this one.
Mm-hmm. Well, then it goes back to who are you surrounded by, right?
Mm-hmm.
And environment. So having support and telling the people that you're closest to what you're trying to achieve, and making others uncomfortable, maybe. Because again, I think we talked about this last week. Again, it might force them to look at what maybe they aren't doing.
100%.
And it's not on you. And it's just making them face a few things. And maybe you're worried about making other people uncomfortable. Right?
That we call that the pleaser. That's the pleaser saboteur.
That's it.
And, when we look at society in general, like the societal beliefs around weight in general and social media and how everything is filtered, like you can't go a second online or in a social media or at the store and looking at all the magazines. You can't go a second without seeing things that have been airbrushed, changed, filtered, tweaked, all of this stuff to really mess with our reality of what we think is actually what we think and what is actually true.
Right.
What's the average? What's the average, Andrea? What's the average?
So the average size in our country anyway is a size 14. Now I know years ago it used to be a size 10, but then you take into account different lines of clothing and how they size things. I mean, if you've tried to buy a pair of ski pants this winter, it's maddening. You can't even figure out what size you are. But many companies don't even produce clothing above a size 12.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that do to you mentally, right?
Yeah.
So what's real, what's not? In Hollywood, of course, it's a 0. Everyone's a 0.
Yep.
But that's just not realistic. And people just cannot seem to, even though we're looking at it and we can somehow justify, well, they're the cover on People magazine. We can justify that they have the money to do that. And
yes.
But the fact is, that's not even real. We're adults and we still can't figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing is though, like we see what we hear, what's in front of us, our reality is created by that. A lot of us just don't question it.
Right.
right? We're not questioning it. And it's when you see it long enough, it subconsciously becomes, oh, this is what it is.
Right.
Right. We're not questioning it. It becomes part of the norm. And there's too much of it. It's too much. And I mean, we could add like a million more. One that I really wanted to dig into is the difference between men and women when it comes to weight release. That's a big one also. I work with predominantly women, and I know you do too. And one of the things that I tell them all the time is, do not compare yourself. If you have a male that lives in your house, do not compare yourself to that person, because you're going to start making changes. They're just going to kind of do what you do. And it's going to be, for majority of the time, it just happens easier for them. There's testosterone, there's hormone pieces in that. We're not going to get deep into that today. We will eventually. And just don't compare. That was why we started that episode 1. Do not compare. Do not compare with anybody, male or female.
Exactly.
But specifically male. Do not compare.
Okay. Especially if you live together.
Exactly. Because I've had women in my program, and the men just kind of like are doing whatever they're doing, and they're getting insane results. And the women are like, what the hell is going on? and
Every time.
I'm like, it's just different. It's just different. So So just don't compare.
Don't compare.
So we have a lot of weight there. There's a lot of weight that needs to be released around weight loss. A lot of weight that needs to be released around weight loss, because so many of us have been holding on to this for so long. I mean, how many of you listening right now have been holding on to one or many of the things that we've just mentioned out loud? And how long has it kept you stuck and stagnant and in that thing for so long? And that's really where we want to give you some really solid things to help you release the weight of weight loss. And this was when we were starting to think about the podcast in general. So many people come to Andrea and I for that specific thing. They come to us for weight loss. And we wanted to start off by changing, and this is step 1, changing the mindset and the relationship and the dialogue with weight loss. Just changing what that is. And that's such a huge step in the right direction. We have to start changing the conversation.
Right. And changing the word weight loss. And that's why we named our podcast Release the Weight.
Yes. Because
there is a very real attachment to the word loss. Absolutely. And it's not a good one.
Yep.
It's not a good one. I was telling Matt that, when I reflected on the times I've been my thinnest and of course felt my best, looked my best, really on the outside, I looked great, but on the inside, I was crumbling. It was a breakup. It was the death of a parent. It was a divorce, right?
Yeah.
It was almost losing a child. All these things that are losses, and you're in grief. So there's some relationship there and attachment to the loss. So when you say weight loss, subconsciously, your body, the emotional attachment to that.
Yeah, that word. In any other area of your life, when you lose something, it's usually in your mind a bad thing. You lose your keys, that's bad. You lose a loved one, that's bad for a lot of people, right? Like you lose anything. You lose your car, you lose in playing a game, you lose anything. It triggers something inside of you subconsciously. And so that's why if we can change the word, people ask me all the time, why do you say release weight, Matt? And that's exactly why. It's to change that dialogue. And so weight release is a side effect of optimal health.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the relationship of it. If you focus on getting healthier, right, doing things to love on yourself and get healthier, now you have a different focus, and now you're going to get different results, because we tend to focus so hard on the fact that we can't lose weight, or it's not working, or, and we get stuck in this lack thought process. And it's when we can think, well, I'm eating better and I'm feeling better and my energy's better and I'm sleeping better, right? All these little wins that are happening left and right. But so many times people are so focused on that number on that scale, and they're living and dying by that, that it's not actually helping change that mindset and relationship and dialogue with it.
Exactly.
And, over the past 100 years, the definition of diet has changed from what it originally was, right? So what it is now, this is what people think of when they think of diet. They think of a short-term fix to achieve a quick fix solution. And when you think about species, right? Animals, people, all these things, when you go to the zoo, every animal in the zoo or every animal in the wild, they have a specific thing that they've evolved to eat, right? Humans are no different, folks. we evolve, right? It's the, the healthy carbohydrates, it's the protein, it's the fat, it's the, the fruits, the vegetables, some people will disagree with this, but whether it's the protein from animal sources or vegetable sources, right? And we will absolutely do one on that. And
you were tiptoeing around that one a little bit.
Around that. I want people to stick around long enough to have that conversation, right?
Right.
And then fat, healthy fat, right?
Right.
Avocados.
And we've put taboo on so many. Even we've put taboo around so much of that. Again, another episode, but
yes, for sure.
Regardless,
and I could talk all day about that.
Right. It's the narrative. It's always about the narrative that's in the dialogue that's in your head, whether it's the food you're eating, whether it's how much weight you want to release, right?
Yeah, totally.
It's what's that script in your head? Can I do this? Do you believe you can do this? Do you believe you're worth feeling your best? All these things. So, the belief, we were talking about this earlier, the belief is really, that is probably one of the most key things here, is knowing that regardless of the yo-yo or the past losses and then maybe gains, the ups and downs, that it's possible if you just break it down, if you just slow down a little bit. And that alone, just starting there, if you don't know where to start, that's one place to start, believing that you can just start with something little.
Yes. So step one, folks, start changing your mindset, your dialogue, and your relationship with it, right? And just shifting that. Step two, and this one could have been step one, or even just the overall understanding of it, is so many of us are trying to achieve enoughness through changing our outer appearance and circumstance. And we do this in multiple ways. This is not just a weight thing, right? We do this in multiple ways. We try to have more money. We try to be successful in our careers. We try to be successful at parenting. We try to be successful in all of these other areas to be enough. And knowing right now, number two, knowing right now that you are enough regardless of your weight or size.
Right.
Knowing you are enough regardless of your weight or size. So that one, we want that to really sink in, because I know for me personally, I chased being enough my whole life. My whole younger life, I was always trying to be a hyperachiever in so many areas of my life, to try to feel like I was good enough. And I see it a lot in the weight release world.
Right.
Number 3.
The belief.
Believing
that it's possible. And that alone can be so, so, so powerful. You have got to stop attaching yourself to the past, because you cannot move forward if you're always looking at what you did and what you did not do in this arena and in life, really. Right?
Yeah. If you believe you can and you will release the weight, then you will. If you believe based on the past, right? A lot of us are basing our experience off of the predictable past and things that happened to us in the past, and the familiarity, right, of the past. And it's creating this predictable future. And it's what's keeping us stuck in that cycle, that we don't actually believe that we can do it. And I'm telling you, that is one of the biggest things holding you back right now. And so many times, and you brought this up in our pre-conversation, where a lot of women, they hit menopause and they believe that menopause is going to be horrible and all these things, and you're not going to be able to you're going to gain weight and all this stuff because of what they see from a lot of people they know, right?
And what doctors are telling us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're setting us up to fail by saying that this is totally normal.
Yes.
So that's,
that will be a whole episode, folks.
That's a whole episode.
We will unpack that one deep. Number 4 is knowing what your strong why is, right? I always say anything that I've tried to do in my life, it's the why that makes me want to cry are the whys that drive me. Like those are the whys that make me show up, like my kids, my wife, like all the things that I love in my life. Those are the things that drive me to do things that push me outside of my comfort zone. And I think if you just start to really look at why are you doing this? Is this for you? Is this for other people? And either way, it's fine. It's just understanding why. Because when things get hard or difficult or uncomfortable, when you have a stronger why, you're going to keep moving forwards. You will keep moving forwards.
And and you, depending on the goals that you have, this needs to be part of, a lifestyle for you. For sure. Where it's not a series of, sprints and coming to a halt. So that's as strong as believing that you can do it.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. I think you hit a really important point there. The start and stop. I call that pause button mentality, right? If I just pause and then I'll just do the holidays, or I'll just do this thing, and then I'll come back, then I'll hit unpause, and then, or I'll start again. Right.
Right.
That's just not life. Like it's not a video game, right? We're going through this. We're going through this. And number five is really just focusing on the foundations of health first, folks. So let's keep it simple here today. Let's keep it really simple. You need to sleep. Sleep is, I think, an underrated thing when it comes to weight release. It's something that not enough people give credit to. Your body sleeping and recovering, and it's massive. I think a lot of people would have expected me to say what you eat right out of the gate there. I'm going with how you're sleeping, quality of sleep, all that stuff.
Yep. And everybody's different. Everybody is different.
Everybody is different for sure. And some bodies need more sleep than others. I know when I destroyed my adrenal fatigue, I had to sleep a lot more to recover from it.
Sure.
Right. And I alluded to the nutrition piece. What you put in definitely has a massive impact. And I think we have to all come together on what all of the diets and all the experts agree on, and getting more healthy vegetables into your life is is one of the number ones, except if you are on the carnivore diet. That's the only time when they don't agree on it. There's always going to be people that don't agree. And when we meet kind of in this space where we understand that it comes back to optimal health, right? When you're optimally healthy, you're eating things that are real food.
Yes.
Real food.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Drinking water. I mean, it's so basic. Yep. To start. It's so basic. You sleep a little more.
Eat a little bit different.
Eat a little bit differently. Sometimes a little more, because most of us are in a deficit when we're in that headspace of trying to release the weight. Right.
I want you to say that again, Andrea, because I want that point to be clear there, where I think so many people, because this is the common advice people get is eat less and move more. That's the common advice that people get. It's not that is not a sustainable way to focus to go at this, folks. It is not a sustainable way to go at this.
It's not. And I'll be honest, I would say that I don't think I've ever had a client ever that I had to say, you're eating too much. I don't think I ever have. I have 2 new clients, males, both of which I had to say, you're not eating enough. And they could not believe it.
Yeah.
And I know some of my clients are probably listening right now, shaking their heads. It's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happens all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not even aware that they're not getting in enough, right? And they're hungry. And when you're hungry or hangry, you make decisions that may be non-functional for your goals, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And then, we'll get deep into insulin and understanding that in other episodes. But I'll say that a lot of my clients, and probably 60 to 70% of the people on the planet, are walking around with some sort of insulin resistance and not even realizing it. So when they're taking in all of these processed carbohydrates and processed refined sugars and all of this stuff that's usually hiding, folks, I get so frustrated with the food industry because it's hiding. It's literally hiding in there. And people are trying so hard to eat healthier and to do the right thing. And yet it's a minefield when you go into the grocery store. So it's going through that and understanding that as well.
Sure. And water, right? Water. So basics. We want to keep this so basic. Water, vegetables, sleep.
Yeah.
Eating enough, no deprivation. The depriving yourself is only going to bring the stop-start, right?
Only going to bring it. Yep.
Yep. So, so you can start with just those few things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Keep it simple. Number 6 is understanding that this weight release thing, it needs to be a mental, emotional, and physical approach. So many of us, we're trying to pick a diet or pick an exercise program or pick something that does not align with us and our values and our beliefs and all of those things. And emotionally doesn't align with us. So mentally it doesn't align with us, and emotionally it doesn't align with us. And therefore, it is going to be a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start it. We're never going to live it, though. So be careful if you are trying to pick things outside of your what you currently are doing, unless you're willing to do the inner work that it's going to take to actually make that thing stick. Your mind has to be aligned with the plan. It has to be. The last piece I'd say that I always talk about with my clients that I think is really, really important is that no matter what you do, this always has to be a lifestyle shift, always has to be a lifestyle shift. And you will always get you'll get your lowest standards in life. And this is in anything, folks. This is in money, relationships, parenting, like all of these things apply to all of these other areas of your life. And whatever our lowest standards are in our life, so it's just examining what your lowest standards are and figuring out, are my lowest standards around sleep hurting my weight release? Are my lowest standards around what I put into my body hurting my progress? Are my lowest standards around, water and sunlight and moving my body? Right? It's just looking at them. And if you look at them and you say, you know what, I just bumped it up just a little, just a little, right? I eat one more vegetable. Here's a good one. This is one that I have for myself. I always eat at least one vegetable a day, just one, right? Now, if you have never eaten a vegetable, folks, because I've worked with clients that have never eaten a vegetable, that needs to be unpacked, right? Like, so if you're hearing this right now and like, I can't eat vegetables, I don't do it, don't let that stop you. I'm just talking about me, right? Like there's always something that you can do. We need to get rid of the all or nothing and step into the always something.
Yep. Just mini habits that add up.
So that's, I think, the big takeaway. So let's just review real quick. So it's just changing that mindset, the relationship, the dialogue, knowing you are enough regardless of your weight or circumstance, believing it's possible. That's so big. Knowing your strong why, focusing on the foundations, just the basics, folks. Start there. Start focusing on those and mastering those. And knowing that this is a mental, emotional, and physical endeavor. That's what this approach is. And then doing those little mini things and raising those standards, those lowest standards as what you will allow in your life. And that's kind of just standing for yourself, standing for myself. And you say, I know that my body deserves more sleep. I know that my body deserves X, Y, and Z. And you're just deciding not to stand. You're deciding to not allow that stuff in your life, right? If you've ever been in a relationship before that was just really negative, right? And you decided to let that person go, it's the same type of deal.
Sure. Yeah.
So what do you think is the big takeaway that we can leave people with? Because we gave a lot of awesome stuff here. What if they have one thing today?
Well, I think we gave them so much information. I would the one thing is just start something. Just pick up one habit. And, don't beat yourself up if you fall back, because I think you and I can agree on this, Matt. We're not all or nothing. 80-20. If you're doing these mini habits 80% of the day and 20% you're not, or 80% of the week and 20% you're not, because some people like to have, those weekends and they can go off the grid and actually live and do their things and not feel guilty. Don't beat yourself up. There's no guilt here. We have to get rid of the guilt, because that's part of the weight, right? That we're carrying around.
Absolutely.
So, again, a whole other podcast on
guilt. Yeah. I can't believe we forgot about that when we left that. That is a huge one. Yeah. The guilt's huge. So the takeaway, making just little consistent, small changes, little mini habits, and don't beat yourself up when you have setbacks. Let that stuff go.
Yes.
That's the stuff that's causing a lot of us to hold on. Our body senses that and it holds on to the weight because it thinks that you're stressed, right? Your cortisol is releasing. All of this stuff is happening. And some of us just need to get off the scale too.
Oh my God. We could go on for hours. We can't keep these people here.
So folks, bottom line is a little bit more. just a little bit more, or just a little bit less of what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Just making those little changes, and you got this. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, and know that you have this and that you can do it. So if you liked this episode, if you dug it, definitely share, rate and share. And all of the things that we just skimmed the surface of in this one episode, we're going to be unpacking all of this in multiple episodes. We wanted to get this one out there just so that we can open that dialogue and start that conversation.
Right on.
So have an excellent rest of your day, and we will see you on the next episode.